All right, we're live. I try to keep this show pretty evergreen, but I cannot start the show today without saying Happy New Year to everybody out there who's watching and listening. We are doing our first show of the year. This is 2025. Welcome to the new year. I'm your host, Sondra Shannon, CEO of Gatemaster Technology, and I'm excited about today's very special guest, my first guest of the year. And I can't think of a better way to start off my year than with a show the first day that most of us are back in the office. So, to kick off today, let me introduce you to this guest that I have today. And I'm very excited about this guest because, as you know, I love haunted attractions. My partner, Tiffany, some of you know her. She is a avid goer of haunted attractions. You guys know I don't like jump scares. I've said this on the show before. But what I love about the haunted attraction industry is, and what I love to highlight about them is the people behind it and the ideas behind it, which is why I'm super excited to talk to Lynne Vincent today about the psychology behind haunted attraction design. So before we bring Lynn up, let me just give you a short introduction to Lynn, and she's so many things. But she is an associate professor at Syracuse University's Whitman School of Management. She holds an MS and PhD in organizational behavior from Cornell University. She's published in leading journals like Academy of Management, the Academy of Management Journal, and her research focuses on the moral and social implications of creativity. She's passionate about global folklore, especially different holiday characters. She finds it amazing how so many cultures invented scary characteristics to terrorize their children into behaving. We've all just went through Christmas, and my kids used to always tell me about Krampus. I'm sure that's one of those that she's going to bring up. So I love that. I love that she's taking a little bit of a different approach to the psychology behind haunted attraction design and understanding the stories behind what scares people. So without further ado, let me welcome Lynn to the stage. Lynn, thank you for being here today and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, I gave a short bio, but is there anything else that you want the audience to know about you today that maybe I missed or maybe I don't know about because there's so much here?
So, my research primarily focuses on creativity, and that research path has led me to connect with something that I love, which is Halloween and folklore and haunted attractions. So, I look at haunted attractions from like this psychology perspective, but I'm not like, deep into the working mechanisms. Like I don't create them. I just study them and admire them.
I love that. Well, it's interesting to this last year I got to attend an event at Not Scary Farm with IAPA, which was really special because we got to have a private event there, and they opened up one of their haunted attractions just to us. Thank goodness there were no scare actors because I would not have gone through it. I'm scared to death of I used to love scary stuff. And this is where I'm sharing this with you because I'm curious if you're going to be able to answer some of this for me. But as I've gotten older, like I can't handle the jump scares. Like the anxiety piece of it is really crazy. But I know some people find that piece to be very thrilling. So for me, I'm like, I don't like getting kicked into that fight mode, right? The fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
the fight mode. But what was great about this event that we did with Not Scary Farm is we also got to listen to a panel. And one of the reasons I was super excited to talk to you today is because on that panel, they talked about the creativity behind it, the ideas behind why they did what they did, how they created these stories, where they pulled from culture and history to create this particular, because they have several haunted houses. This particular haunted house that we got, it was called Widows, and what they pulled from in order to understand what would scare people and how to get the most scares out of the most people, right? So it was really, really special, and I learned so much more about the haunted attractions industry in that moment. And of course, Not Scary Farm has been doing it forever. I mean, they're like pioneers in that space. But really, just having an opportunity to understand just understand at a deeper level than what I think most people are thinking about, which is why I'm really excited to talk to you. So, do you mind if we jump into some questions?
Let's do it.
So, when we're talking about creativity with attraction design, from your research on Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, what lessons about team creativity stands out the most to you?
Okay. All right. So the Haunted Mansion is very near and dear to my heart. I love it. I'm working on a couple papers about it. And what I love so much about the Haunted Mansion is it took about 18 years to develop, and
Wow.
there were teams going in and out. So it was a very iterative process. And it represents so much what I love about creativity. There was a whole lot of failure and rejection. There was um, teams that had different skills and different backgrounds, and the final product would not be what it is without those specific skills and those specific interactions. Um, and it also, what I love is the iteration of it, because I can track how an idea changed as it went through the Imagineer's different hands. I love that about it because that's what creativity is. It's a lot of change, it's a lot of generation, it's a lot of failure and rejection, but you can come up with something beautiful at the end.
Yeah, and that one actually is close to my heart too, because I grew up going to Disneyland. That was my park that I spent time with my family. I do talk a little bit about that on the show. Part of why I'm in this industry is because of Disneyland, because it was one of the places that my mom used to take me and my sisters, and it was just such a powerful uh, memory. When I think back to my childhood and my time with my family. And what's interesting, I shouldn't say it's interesting. What's sad about me is for the first probably until I was like 12 years old, I closed my eyes on that ride the entire time, right? And
But it's so
I would ride the whole ride
beautiful.
like this. So, okay, so maybe being scared in haunted attractions is a lifelong thing for me. But I did. I closed my eyes on that one and Pirates of the Caribbean. But eventually, when I opened my eyes and I wasn't so scared anymore, I was able to see the beauty behind what you're saying, the creativity, because there really is nothing else like it. The Haunted Mansion is like one of the first rides I took my own kids on because I loved it so much. Luckily, they didn't inherit my scare dream or my scare fear. But with that being said, how do emotions like fear and excitement influence the creative process of haunted attractions?
Okay. So fear is a deeply human emotion, and we learn so much about from it. We wouldn't have survived as humans without having fear. So, but here's the tricky thing. It's a negative aversive emotion. It's usually associated with avoidance or that fear, flight, or freeze. So, using it in haunted attractions is a balance because you want people to experience and explore that fear because haunted attractions are one of the safe places that you can explore fear. It's
Sure.
it's pretend fear, it's play fear. Like you can
Yeah.
really feel fear, but you're gonna survive. That chainsaw is not really gonna hurt you, or it shouldn't unless something's really wrong with that haunted attraction you're at. But so one of the interesting things about fear is it is like a high arousal. So it's really an intense feeling. Excitement is similar because while it is a positive emotion, while fear is a negative emotion, it's also high arousal. So they have some links, and a haunted house attraction can combine them because you've got that fear, you've got that, I don't know what's going to come at me or where it's coming at me, but this is fun. Can be exciting. So you got
Yeah,
to
I
balance it.
yeah, I love that because one of the things that we say around the office all the time is like, especially when we're doing something new, and failure is a real fear.
Oh yeah.
for a lot of people. Around the office here, we always say, fear and excitement are the same. They kind of feel the same. So we have to kind of recognize, is it fear? Is it excitement? So it's interesting that you say that, because I think what most people are experiencing is the excitement.
Hmm.
For me, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. When I get out of a haunted house, I feel great. So it probably is excitement, but I'm an excitable person, maybe. I don't know. But when you think about what makes haunted houses unique with regards to a creative outlet, and what do you or I guess what I'm trying to say is, what do you think makes haunted attractions unique when it comes to storytelling and team collaboration? I know one of the things that I learned when we were at Not Scary Farm was really how much the team had to put into it. Everything from coming up with the idea, the technical aspects of it, the training of the actors, the scouting of the actors. Like it really blew my mind, because I think a lot of people show up to these attractions and don't really put a lot of thought into the collaboration and storytelling efforts that get put into the creation of these experiences. So, what do you think makes it super unique in terms of an experience?
Haunted attractions are so immersive, and so
Yes.
it, the places with where I've spoken to, they start really early designing, and it actually what they describe to me is like starting with the story, or like sometimes they have like a base physical structure and then going into the story and then going into the special effects and the characters. That's exact or very similar to what happened with the Haunted Mansion. Is they started with a picture on a map, and then they had to figure out what the house would look like, what the story would be. And it wasn't until they had tried to make a story, that they then started layering the special effects and the characters. So, what's so wonderful about haunted attractions, though, is it does require cross functional teams where you need people with different functional backgrounds and different skill sets in order to create something truly creative, truly memorable. Because if you're just going to have people in a mask jumping out at people, I mean, it might be effective, but it's not going to be memorable. The really creative
Right.
ones are the ones that are bringing different elements, different backgrounds together.
Yeah, I love that. When the panel that they had during that time was, the artist who drew it out, like you're saying, and the person who then did the story, originally created the story. Then they brought in the operations team to be like, hey, can we make this story happen?
Yeah.
And they helped design and build it. And then the technical people making sure the lights were doing the right thing and the sounds were in the right spots. And it is one of the most collaborative pieces of our industry, in my opinion. Haunted attractions, it's one of the reasons that, while I might be scared of them, I think they're super cool. And that kind of work that goes into that is really special, and especially because it's seasonal in so many cases. Although, from what I'm learning, there are parts of the world, and I know the folklore across the world is something that you're interested in, and I would love to hear more about that too. But what I'm hearing is that in some countries, they continue to use these. They go through they have haunted attractions all year long.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
US market is one of the few where we really only focus on it
Yeah.
during our holiday season, but, these other countries are continuing to do this throughout the year because it is part of their culture, right?
Mhm.
And, when we talk about the psychology of emotions and attractions, why do you believe people are so drawn to fear-based experiences?
Because it's one of the few places that they can experience this fear and that
Uh,
emotion. Because experiencing it out in the real world, that's dangerous. Like that, it's really uncomfortable. And
yes.
you don't know how you're going to react to it. But going to these haunted attractions allows you to explore this feeling that is so fundamental, that's so important, so human in us, in a way that we can understand it and explore it and experience it in a safe way. So I think that's what draws people to it. Going back to Disney, Walt Disney truly believed in the light and the dark living together. That's, why they have the villains in the movies. That's why he knew he had to have a haunted house in the most amazing place in the world. Like, he knew that even in the happiest place in the world, we needed to have some darkness. And people want to explore that. That's one of the reasons why Halloween is so beloved. It's why even during Christmas, when we're all so happy, we have Krampus and Grilla and Frau Perta, like ready to pounce on us. It's just so human of us to explore.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That is part of the human condition, right? The human experience to explore fear. And, that kind of makes me wonder how emotions play a role in guest satisfaction when they visit themed attractions like haunted attractions. Is there any, do you have any insights on that? Like how that emotion plays a role in the guest experience?
So what I've been interviewing some scare actors, and one of the things I'm hearing from them is they don't want people to feel fear without fun. I mean, they do want to scare people 100%. They want it to be truly scary, but they want people to enjoy themselves. They don't want people to walk away being traumatized.
Right.
So it is that finding the line. One of the places that I've been working with is Frightmare Farms. And that was something that Nicole Ginsberg, the owner of Frightmare Farms, talked about a lot with me, is finding the line of what is scary, but not in a inaccessible or inappropriate way that would go too far. Um, One of the things that I've heard from other people is finding the difference between fear and disgust. And in the research, that like fear and excitement, fear and disgust are cousins. They have similarities. But while fear has that more of like a physical active reaction to it, disgust is going to cause people to back away. So haunted attractions should probably avoid disgust too much. Fear is okay. Excitement is great. Um, but like disgust, not so much.
Well, it's funny. You're just reminding me of a funny story. We used to, because we've always had booths. I mean, we've been going to IAPA Expo, North America, for the last 30 plus years. And there was one year we were across from the puking animatronics.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned disgust, that's like, and I mean, after a full week of listening to this thing, we were all like, and puking is like a real interesting thing because I'm not trying to gross you guys out on this show today, but when you see somebody else puking, it makes you want to puke, right? So
Mhm.
imagine trying to sell software for 5 days with a puking animatronic across from you. It was hey, it tested my professional skills for sure. But I understand what you're saying. Like I can only imagine. Now I don't think this puking animatronic was that awful, but I understand what you're saying about disgust because I'm like, man, after a week, I'm like, that would be awful to walk into a haunted attraction and have to watch, right? Like, and here we were. But it's interesting because from a psychology perspective, what do you think some of the key elements are that play a role in the guest experience? Then, because like you're saying, we don't want them to be disgusted. We don't want them to have fear without fun. So, what are we tapping into?
So you're tapping into some like peaks and lulls because fear is a very intense emotion. So you need people to give people a second to process, to you know, laugh at it, realize, oh yeah, I'm safe right now, and then you can scare them again. You can do the double tap scare. So what I've seen in a lot of the attraction designs is having like a high intensity scare followed by a moment of safety or a low intensity scare. They might walk through a passage that's more atmospheric, and
Mm.
then they'll get hit with like a character heavy, high intensity reaction or moment. So it's that balance, giving people a second to process and then go right back in.
Yeah, like a roller coaster ride.
It is. Yep.
Yeah,
Emotional roller coaster.
yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster for sure, and that is one of the things that I'm learning, especially from my guests, but also, being able to attend these events where they're talking about these ideas behind haunted attractions. One of the things that was really fascinating to me is how intricate the the design of these attractions are. And I bring that I got to visit Canada's Wonderland. I believe that they had I think they had purchased a haunted attraction from Not Scary Farm, one that I had never seen, but they did allow us to go. Theirs ran all year long, and they did allow us scaredy pants people like me to go through it with the lights on. And they also did that at Not Scary Farm, which was really interesting for me because of who I am when I go through a haunted attraction. There's no way that I'm paying attention to the little bottle on the shelf or
Hmm.
like all these things that they really were thoughtful about in terms of designing these attractions, the very intricate details that just make them super unique and really a beautiful experience when you're not especially when you got the lights on and you're fortunate enough that you got to actually walk through and see. I could see all the spots where the actors were because it's like the most worn out part of the attraction because the scare actor stands there all day. The way that they hung the cobwebs, and just because this particular one it was called Widowed, so it had a spider theme, which I can't imagine anything scarier than that. But there are things scarier than that. But the intricacies of it and how much was being put into it, just like the Haunted Mansion. Every time you go on it, I'm sure you find something new. Even today, I'll find something new.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a shame because they need people to get through. I mean, that's part of the amusement industry is you need people to circulate. But I just want to stay and look at all the details and all the thought that put into it. That's I get super excited when I get to do like the backstage stuff. Um, can I tell you about the monster candle at Frightmare Farms?
Yeah,
Okay, because
please.
you might like it. Um, so I have a 9-year-old daughter who has my Halloween heart, and she wants to go to haunted houses with me, but she's 9 and not quite ready for the power scares yet. So Frightmare Farms in Fulton, New York, offers the Monster Candle, which is a way to let this actors know to do a less sensory intense experience.
Ah,
So the person in the front will hold out this battery powered candle and the actors will adapt. Sometimes they will do a less powerful scare. Sometimes they will become scared of you. And I've seen them like physically climb up the walls. They've befriended my daughter and given her gifts. They have made her one of the monsters and had her scare us. And it was just such a wonderful way to give a less intense version. It also gave my husband and I a chance to look around more because there weren't as many actors. So we're like, oh,
yeah.
we can see all the details now. So,
Yeah, that's actually really cool because, and I've said this on the show before, I'm a dyslexic, so as a neurodivergent person, I think some of it is sensory for me, for sure. I can get totally sensory overloaded pretty fast, right? I mean, I go to a networking event, I gotta sleep for a day, right? Because it's just, for me, that was I had to train myself to be in those types of environments comfortably. And even still, I think networking is almost as scary as a haunted attraction for some people in business. So it's, I try not to be too hard on myself with regards to that because I am mentoring people who are having to do this. And yeah, we laugh sometimes and it is like going through a haunted attraction doing something scary. But like you said, it's good to have these moments where you're pushing yourself into scare or fear in a safe environment in a fun way, and in that case it's how some of us make our money. And what I love what you're saying is, especially today, they are doing more things to accommodate people who might be a little more overloaded by the sense, with sensitivity to the sensory aspect, the noises. That's why I think I probably had my hand over my eyes as a kid, because I could just deal with the sound, right? The sound was enough. I mean, the sounds are scary,
Sounds are
right?
scary.
The sounds are scary enough. Um, Oop, there we go. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I tell my guests all the time that this is a live show, so anything goes. And here we are. My camera's out. Let's see if I can't fix that for us.
No, you're
There we
okay.
go. Yay! If you guys ever see me looking over to the side, because I'm trying to manage all this tech in here by myself. So it's pretty cool. So thank you for bearing with me there. But it's a live show. Anything goes. See,
Like that.
Lynn, I told you. We wouldn't start the new year off with one of those blips. But I'm curious as we talk about this stuff with regards to how we're improving the experiences for all people. When we talk about to me, that's innovation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an innovation and it's a trend, because we do want to have the most amount of people having these experiences. And so I love that. What did you call the candle?
The monster candle.
The monster candle. I love that. And I love that that gives people who maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to have that experience a chance to experience it. And especially with young people, letting them experience it not at the level 10,
Yeah.
right? Take down a notch. So with regards to innovation, what else do you see attraction operators doing to innovate, and or learning from other industries that maybe are adjacent, that can help when it comes to fostering creativity or the emotional engagement, the emotional aspect of what's happening? Are there other things that you think that haunted attraction operators can look at with regards to that piece?
There's so many things because, as we talked about earlier, there's so many elements. You have story, you have costume, you have character, you have the special effects. So there are opportunities for innovation all over the place. I mentioned Frightmare Farms, where one of their innovations is inclusion, and they are sensory
Yes.
certified, so all of their actors are trained to engage when somebody has a sensory overload or needs to be removed carefully. They're all ready to handle that. But it's just this an innovation of like, how can we bring more people in? So I thought that was such a beautiful innovation. But there's so many ways to become more creative in your haunted attraction. Okay, I have to get pedantic for a second, put on become a professor. So the definition of creativity in my field is something that's novel and useful. It can be a product, idea, process, anything, but it has to have those two components. It has to be new, it has to solve a problem. And, we can have that argument of new to whom, but, if it's new to your space, it works. So one of the best things that you can do is go out and talk to new people, learn new things, go to a lecture, even if you're like, I don't know anything about this, I don't know how it will relate. Just say yes, and you never know. You're going to be able to connect that information to your attraction in some way. It might be a piece of folklore. You're like, oh yeah, Baba Yaga is super cool and scary. Let me figure out how I can incorporate that. Or maybe it's a new makeup process or holograms or anything that can help you become more innovative and do something different. So just go out there and learn new things. Even if it seems irrelevant, do it.
Well, what I love about what you're saying too, especially with regards to the cultural scare aspect, the folklore, the stories that we all know, or maybe we don't know, right? Because this is an incredible opportunity to share culture if you can incorporate, you know, Krampus into
Mhm.
your haunted attraction, right? Because curiosity. I didn't know much about Krampus until one of my kids picked it up from a friend who I believe was because it's isn't Krampus, is it German?
Yeah, Austrian, Slovakia,
Austrian, German?
yeah, that whole area.
And she had a friend, a young friend when she was little who told her about it. And the next thing I know, I'm learning about it. And it was so fascinating. But what I love about what you're saying too is that when haunted attractions get out there, they learn more, they incorporate these things, they can also tell a story that people already know, maybe a side story, a news story about that character. And I really love the storytelling part of it. I don't know, maybe next year I'm gonna make an extra effort to check out a few more haunted attractions. You know what? I did a lot of them this year. I was super proud of myself,
That's
but I did. I did quite a few of them this year. I even had friends invite me out. Normally I would say no, but because I had so many haunted people in the haunted attractions industry on my show during that time. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a deep dive myself into these experiences. Now, by the end of October, I was like, guys, I can't do it anymore. But I'm glad, I really pushed
yeah.
myself this year to do it. And I love what you're saying because I never really understood the storytelling until this year at having learned from people who have been in the industry. But I think that is such a great idea for attractions in terms of creativity to find new and innovative things and trends is to
Mhm.
go back to the stories that have been told.
Yeah.
And especially with you being somebody who understands what these stories are and is fascinated by them. There are people like you who can share this information, which is why I'm so grateful that you came on the show today. This has been really a fun topic. Uh, before we wrap up the show, I'm just curious because of all the research and insights that you're doing. What's one piece of advice that you'd give attraction leaders who are looking to better integrate creativity and emotional psychology into their operations? What's something that you can leave with the audience today?
I'll do two quick ones. One, if you want to be creative, you have to give a lot of space for failure. Creativity is not easy, and things are not going to work out right away or maybe ever, but if you keep trying, something can come out of it. So just when you are leading your team, be very careful of how you're encouraging ideas. Even if someone says something really unconventional and bizarre, you might have that immediate reaction of, oh, we can't do that, or no, that's not going to work. Try to temper that, because that reaction will stifle creativity. People are going to stop suggesting ideas because they don't want that reaction. They don't want that rejection. So you have to be very careful to create a space for unconventional ideas and allow failure to happen. For emotions, I would say consider exit polls. Like when people are walking out, see if they'll tell you what they're feeling and what intensity. Is it positive? Is it a negative? Are they feeling something we call emotional ambivalence, where it's the simultaneous effect of something positive and negative? Because that might be your sweet spot of where you want to be.
Right, know if you're doing the right thing. It's interesting that you brought that up because this is primarily a business show. So we're talking to operators, owners, operators of attractions, and people in adjacent industries and businesses. And I think what you're saying is really important because especially with regards to that exit surveys or conversations that they can have, the reviews. First of all, we need reviews
Mhm.
for marketing purposes to get people to know we're here and to read. And so many of our guests of these experiences are using reviews to decide if they are going to have that experience. But what I think we fail to remember is that in that survey data or in that review data is the key to the successes, the repeatable successful actions that we need to take in order to continue to have good experiences. Because at the end of the day, if these haunted attractions are not profitable, they are not going to be here.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned from my guest. We talk about all the fun things. I had a guest on the show in October who has spent over 40 years building attractions for all of the major attractions in the world. I mean, he travels the world doing it. And one of the things that he kept coming back to was, the profitability,
Mm-hmm.
the sustainability of these haunted attractions, which goes back to really understanding, is the guest having a good experience. And so I think that is an amazing way to leave the audience today. And I appreciate you sharing your insights on this show. If there is anyone out there that wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way that they can reach you?
I am on LinkedIn, Lynne Vincent, but also my email is lcvincen@syr.edu. But if you search Lynne Vincent Syracuse, that's going to be me.
It's going to be you on LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And guys, this is going to be we'll make sure to post all of this in our recap so that you have access to how to contact Lynne. But Lynne, also, you mentioned to me before the show that you are currently in a data collection phase. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about that because there might be somebody listening that wants to get involved in this.
Oh, I love data. Okay. So I've got a couple of projects that are exploring haunted house attractions, both emotions and creativity. So I've been doing rounds of interviews, but now I'm looking for survey sites. So if you are interested in being a data collection site, I would adore you, and I'd love to hear from you.
Hey, I've got one. I'm
I
gonna
am
send your
very
way. I've got one that I think is pretty awesome. It's been a long time. It's been a long time attraction partner of Gatemaster, and they blow my mind. They do like 350,000 visitors
oh
in what, 14 days, whatever their very short season is. They're an amazing attraction, and I know that they've got some interesting data they've been collecting. So remind me to send them your way. But if you are a haunted attraction and you want to help Lynne get the data that she needs to continue her work, but also just be a part of something really cool that maybe can change the future of the industry, like I said, we'll make sure that you can get a hold of Lynne after the show. Lynne, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending your beginning of New Year's with me. I love that this is the first show of the year and that we're talking about creativity and emotions and how to be better at what we do in this industry. And I think a lot of what you're saying can apply to so many of the attractions adjacent to haunted attractions, because at the end of the day, experiences are what people are going for, and they want to feel these emotions, they want to have these memories being made. And I just really appreciate you sharing your insights today.
well, this was so much fun. Thank you for a great conversation.
Thank you, Lynne. Well, there you have it, guys, the first show of the year. I hope you felt like we kicked it off really well with Lynne Vincent talking about the psychology behind haunted attractions. And, like I said, there's so much in this for every attraction, not just those in the haunted attraction space, because I think there are some really valuable lessons. I mean, first of all, being in this industry and having worked with all the different types of attractions, I see how efficient haunted attractions are, especially with that short season that they have and all that they do for their guests, just the creativity, the design, the love that goes into it, the teamwork that goes into it, the training that goes into it. It's just, as a business, one of my favorites. And I hope you enjoyed the show today. So without further ado, I am just going to say what I'm going to say, and that is that I want to have you on my show. If you are going to be the next guest on my show, sharing valuable insights about research, operations, anything that is going to move attractions forward, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. My audience wants to hear from you. People send me messages all the time about how great this guest was, or that guest was, or how this guest helped them get past one of the challenges that they were having. This is about sharing information and showcasing these amazing experts like Lynne. So if you'd like to be on the show, visit me at livewithsondra.com. There's a guest form that you can fill out, and you can be the next guest on this show. I think this year we have a big goal of, what is it, 4 guests a year? They're trying to get me to do 2 guests a week. Well, I think there will be some weeks where we're going to have 2 guests a week because we've had some really amazing applicants for the show. It's a very special guest coming up this year. Some that are blowing my mind. You guys are not going to believe who's coming on this show this year. But we have some amazing guests and some amazing repeat visits from guests who have shared great information, but we just didn't get enough time to get it all out. And I know that you guys need to hear from them again. So stay tuned for the 2025 season of Live with Sondra. I want to thank you all for being here, for your generosity, for supporting the show, for my team, the 5 people that are behind the scenes making all this happen so that I can show up and do this show for you, and for all the guests who are generous with their time, their information. And I think there's very few things that people can be as generous with when it comes to their time and information and sharing what can help somebody else be better. And in many ways, I feel like we have an ethical obligation to do that, but not everybody feels that way, but these guests do. So I just want to thank all of them for being here. And yeah, I'm starting this year out with a lot of gratitude, if you can't tell, but I appreciate each and every one of my listeners, anybody who watches the show. And if you are watching or listening, please drop a comment so that I know you were here. Again, Happy New Year, and we'll see you soon on the next Live with Sondra. Take care.